everybody out there. I am your host. Can you believe it? We're back twice in one day. I could not stay away. It is another episode of Profound Professionals. That's right. The interview series that has been coming to you for 8 years now. We bring industry experts from all over the world. Earlier today, we had someone from the UK. We have some other amazing guests with us here today. And these are industry experts that can help improve your personal life or grow your business. Now, that's important stuff, right? Because when you do improve your personal life, your business does grow. And when your business is growing, sometimes also your personal life improves. So we want to keep these in balance. And, I have a really great panel today of amazing experts that I really think can do just that for you. So I'm going to introduce today Ryan. He is a hypnotist with a focus on deep belief work and mental performance. So, welcome, Ryan.
Thank you.
And we have Mariya, and she is I'm going to try to get all of this right, is a somatic trauma psychotherapist, and she specializes in treatment of PTSD and addictions. And those are very important things to work on and help support people with. So, thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. All right. We are going to go totally against the grain. And instead of our amazing ladies first policy, we're going to start with the handsome Ryan. You're all right with that, Mariya, right? All right, Ryan, you're going to give us some information. What's your journey story? How does one choose hypnotist as a profession, really? How did you step in to that path?
Well, it's a pretty interesting story. Back in 2019, I really started getting into the self-improvement space, working on myself. I got divorced again in 2018. I was trying to get back in the dating scene, and that was not going well for me. So I really started digging into my personal life and what was holding me back. I was also at the time looking to make a career change. I'd spent 23 years doing intelligence work in the Marine Corps, Air National Guard, as a contractor in DC doing counter-terrorism, counter-proliferation. It was just kind of at the point where I needed to make a shift. I thought about becoming a psychologist, but I was going to take about 6 years and $500,000 to get my PhD. But I could get certified as a hypnotist for about $2,000 in 6 weeks. So in the beginning of 2020, back in February, I went ahead and got my certification. And then I had a lot of time on my hands very soon thereafter because the pandemic hit. So I started doing a lot of work with individuals, realized I had a bit of a talent for it. I got some more training and launched my business in May of 2020. It's been pretty awesome time ever since. But one of the things that's really kind of been so important to me about this is a lot of self-improvement work I was doing. I've dealt with things like depression and, darker thoughts for pretty much my entire life, even since I was a kid. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, it was always a struggle to try and find that way to make life worth meaningful, make it life worth living. Mm-hmm. And it was trying to create a way to, actually have the business I wanted, the relationships I wanted, the things I wanted in life. And so I tried pretty much everything over a period of about 3 years between 2019 and 2022. I tried coaching. I did various kinds of therapy, somatic work, breath work. I did psychedelics on retreats. I did a lot of hypnosis work. And I found that of those, everything benefited me. I had a benefit from all of it. Everything gave me some positive changes and helped me along the way. But when it came to really making those deep shifts, especially around things like self-esteem and self-worth, hypnosis was really a tool that moved the needle for me the most. And a lot of the things, they weren't really delivering what I wanted. So I kind of had to go down to first principles to figure out like how the mind really worked and, why things worked the way they did. And what I found was there's so much going on the subconscious mind that's kind of running on its own, right? If your subconscious mind is 90 to 95% of your mind and it's running 90 to 95% of your life, getting that part of your mind sorted out correctly has such a major shift, such a major impact on how your life goes. So that's where I've been focusing my work for the past 4 years. And it's something I'm really, really enjoying.
So is that what you mean by deep belief work? So is it the storylines we've told ourselves that and learn by watching example and what we heard as we grew up as a child, around money and food and success and all of those different things. Is that your primary space?
Yeah. So we make beliefs on different levels of our mind, and this is one of the things that I really have emphasized in my work. You've got your intellectual rational mind, the left part of your brain. You got your emotional mind on the right part of your brain. Your intellectual mind is really focused on the detail stuff, the individual details, individual events, things like that. Stuff like specific things like, like height or money or love or something like that. The right side of your brain is the emotional mind, and it's looking much more at the overarching themes, the overarching things, the big picture, right? The 30,000-foot view. So it's kind of like the difference between the forest and the trees. Mm-hmm. And we make beliefs on both different levels using both systems at the same time, right? So you're not only looking at these individual pieces of your life, but you're also looking at these overarching narratives. And what I've found is it's very easy to shift the beliefs on the intellectual rational level, right? If I've got a money block, that's pretty easy to shift, right? If I've got a block around dating, that can be very easy to shift. But these emotional conclusions, these overarching conclusions are much more difficult, right? Like how many trees do you have to cut down to shift the forest? You got to cut down a lot of trees, right? So I've really focused on those more major themes of being like, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve, right? Because I don't deserve shows up as I don't deserve love. I don't deserve money. I don't deserve this car. I don't deserve this career, right? Or I can't be successful or whatever it is, right? So if you can get down to that deeper level and shift I don't deserve to I do deserve, now all of a sudden these individual events, these individual beliefs change with it. Right. So you don't have to play whack-a-mole with individual beliefs. You don't have to play whack-a-mole with these individual storylines. All that stuff shifts to match these deeper overarching narratives. Right. And so by focusing on those, I can make a much bigger impact and a much bigger changes much more rapidly.
So what kind of customers are coming to you? Like, where are they in their process mentally? So when they finally say, Uncle, I need a Ryan in my life, my arm's been twisted hard enough and I'm in this kind of pain. What are those people going through? And do you have a certain kind of customer? Is it business professionals? Is it people from all walks of life? What's happening with them? What's the story that they're saying when they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I've worked with people of all walks of life. Everything from I've worked with a couple of high school students, for example. I've worked with people who are retired. Most of them tend to be working professionals or entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. As far as where they're at in their journey, a lot of them have been aware that something is wrong for quite a while, right? Mm-hmm. They've already tried a couple of things. They've already tried therapy. Some of them have been spiritual retreats. Some of them even tried psychedelics. But there's a recognition that there's something else still not working for them, right? Mm-hmm. They're looking for the thing that's going to shift that deeper narrative, right? Mm-hmm. They've done the work around love and acceptance. They've done the work around money blocks and stuff like that. They've got the success. They've got the car. They've got the house. Maybe they're married. Maybe they got the kids. They've done all the things that society has told them would make them happy, would make them fulfilled, and they're not, mm-hmm. right? And that disconnect is really what kind of drives them to seek answers. Sometimes it's a situation where they've been, they grew up in a pretty traumatic household. They've got a lot of those sort of trauma narratives that they're just not able to shift. And other things haven't been effective for them. So they come to me for that. But really it's that gap between where they are, where they feel they should be, or between what they've accomplished and the meaning and fulfillment they're getting from it. That's pretty much what really brings people to me, I should say.
And I will say, based on this mental health topic that we kind of have as a running theme for our panel today, that here's our show's disclaimer. As much as we love you out there, we are not giving you medical, legal, financial advice or suggesting you use or try any substance that is not legal, and any substances you are working with should be under the guidance of a doctor and a medical professional and all that jazz. We are sharing stories, experiences, what's worked for us, what we seem to be true. This is a space for you to feel safe and comfortable, but please go get professional help if you need it in any of those areas, and seek a true professional to guide you. This is a podcast. It is a show for entertainment, education, and sharing our stories. So thank you for that, Ryan. Is there anything else about the business? Do you have any? I was wondering how you're working with your clients. Are they online courses? Is it group coaching virtually? Is it one-on-one only? Like, what's your process there?
Right. So I'm only doing one-on-one work. And the reason why is everybody's stories about how they got to where they are always very individual. And one of the things I've learned about beliefs in particular is you have to figure out what the old belief is, where it really came from, and prove that wrong before you can install a new belief. Right. And so that's something you really can't do in a group setting. It's something you really can't do through an online course because it doesn't get down to your specific story. Right. So all my work is done one-on-one. It's all done over Zoom. I started my business in the pandemic, so I've never actually had a physical office to meet clients. And I found it's not really necessary in order to do my work.
All right. Well, wonderful. Now we would love to hear from Mariya. Tell us your journey story. You, somatic traumatic psychotherapist sounds like a very, very big thing. Talk to us how you entered into this career journey, and especially with your focus on PTSD and addictions, which is just so needed in the world in general.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, my story is, similar to many people who enter the healing professions. We have our own histories of going through challenging times. And so I'm a person in recovery, and I've been sober for about 14 years now, and really, really struggled with addiction when I was young, and went to rehab 8 different times, still didn't stay sober, was institutionalized for like 2.5 years, still didn't stay clean, and dealt with a lot of childhood trauma as well. So, in all of its many shapes and forms. So always kind of knew I was gonna do things with people, like helping people in some way, but kind of got off track for a long time and had to, at least now I can laugh about it and say, going through all those experiences was like an internship. Just, putting it mildly now, but it was obviously, life or death for a lot of years. And kind of coming back from the edge, went to school for social work and counseling, and then addiction counseling as well. And I stumbled upon brain spotting as a client in 2017. And I went to one session with a therapist and walked out of there and thinking, I just did like a year's worth of therapy in an hour. Like, where the heck was this the entire time that I was struggling? And just continued to do a lot of my own individual work. I'd been sober for about 7 years at that point. So was just fully invested in learning about the body, because having experienced, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and gone to therapy so much in my earlier years and really not having it help me very much. Seeing some really big gaps in the mental health model that we have in the United States, and the medical model, frankly, have been determined to like bring a different kind of perspective into the mental health culture. And that is really about returning to the body. It's really about getting access to the nervous system. Ryan, you're doing really similar work, that you get to the bottom floor of the subconscious, those autonomic systems, the automatic thoughts, responses, emotions that we have that actually dictate much of our life. Our conscious mind isn't doing so much of the driving, although it likes to think that it is.
Yeah.
So I've been, working as a therapist for 14 years at this point, and working specifically with trauma, attachment trauma. I work with first responders, and anyone running the gamut of trauma and PTSD, and then especially addictions, because addictions is very much trauma based as well. So I see people in a different kind of model as well in my private practice. I see clients for intensive type of therapy. So we're not doing an hour of therapy a week. People are coming in, flying from other states and also locally, but coming and staying here for about a week to 10 days and spending
Mm.
30 hours in a week getting to the core roots of
Mm.
their childhood traumas and experiences, and using brain spotting therapy, which is incredible at being able to access the subconscious mind and autonomic systems and being able to move traumatic charge out of the body. So I use that. I use breath work. I also use psycholytic doses, so small doses of ketamine and cannabis supervised by a physician. So no illegal activities happening here, but really working with a lot of these other medicines too. And when someone, is really struggling with a block and their defense mechanisms are very deeply entrenched, we can have them be aided by the support of some of these molecules that can help people make shifts and get access to things that they couldn't before. So,
Mm.
and I also I teach brain spotting, so that's a big part of my work too, is spreading the word and training clinicians how to do actual trauma responsive care, not just say that it's trauma responsive. So
Mhm.
embodying it.
What is brain spotting? Can you give us
Yeah, I would love to talk
like
about
a
that. Brain
definition
spotting.
of it? Or I don't
Yeah,
know. Never
yeah.
heard of it before.
Sure, I'll give you a small little intro to it. So, brain spotting, if some folks have heard of EMDR, it's kind of similar to EMDR, although it has quite a different theory and principles to it. But EMDR is eye movement and desensitization reprocessing therapy. And in that modality, we're actually using eye movement to help integrate information from both hemispheres of the brain. It's used for trauma work. Brain spotting is not using eye movement, it's using focal eye positions. So, yeah, Ryan, you and I have a lot to talk about because my curiosity is really piqued, talking to somebody who's a hypnotist. When we're working with clients, we're locating points in the visual field. So if like Jessica or Ryan, if I were, seeing you in my office and you're telling me you're really anxious because you've got this deadline or something that's coming up, I would ask you a question like, what's showing up for you inside of your body? Do you have any sensations? Do you have any feelings, emotions, the shape, the color, using all of your senses. And maybe you say, oh, I've got this like tightness in my throat, my heart's pounding when I think about this thing I have to get done. And so what I would do is I would actually I have it right here. It's a little pointer. And then I put a little ball at the end because it makes it easier to see on a computer screen. And I would scan your line of sight and I would look for a spot in your visual field, which you'll find where you're going to be like, oh my God, it's way worse over there. Oh my gosh, it's really
Mm.
intense, and so you're going to feel,
Fascinating.
yeah, and I can explain the science behind why that is. So your optic nerve goes directly into your subcortical brain, the subconscious brain, and it sits right above the amygdala, which is our emotional center of the brain. So the amygdala is very acutely tied to also our motor responses, our physiological experiences, and our autonomic system related to safety and threat. So fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and collapse are different states in the nervous system related to danger. Um, and then what we're doing is we're basically accessing where those neural networks live of that memory or that issue and connected to that body sensation or experiences. What we do then is we actually have you hold your eyes on that spot and then start to focus and mindfully process on whatever material starts to come up. So the brain starts to scan those neural networks, and people will have different memories come up, they'll have different sensations come up, and their brain starts to reorganize because they see now, oh, I'm in front of the relatively, safe person in front of me who's holding deep attunement, paying attention to me, checking on me. And the brain starts to then process out the things that aren't in homeostasis, this, negative charge, and bring people back into homeostasis pretty much rapidly and on their own if the container is held in a good way. So folks move through stuff pretty rapidly, more than talk therapy for sure. And depending on how much trauma you have, it's gonna, still take take time. But if you have a single incident trauma, let's say you went, and got in a car accident, we could potentially clear that completely out of your nervous system in like 1 to 3 sessions.
So to people, because I was listening to you earlier speak on people traveling and flying. So is all of this done in person? All your work has to be done in person?
No, similar to Ryan, I can do this online. I just showed you kind of how it would work, and it translates pretty seamlessly. But a lot of folks, if they're coming and wanting to do a deep dive, it's hard to stay on the computer for a whole day. So, but I do both. I have virtual and in-person options.
And where are you located?
Oh, I'm in right outside of Minneapolis in Minnesota.
And Ryan, where were you located again?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
It's so fascinating how closely you our guests today are.
I agree.
I'm so excited about how this is going. I just can't tell you. And the subject is so interesting. And I will repeat again, we are not giving you medical, legal, financial advice. All of our suggestions are only to what is legal, and we want you to go and get professional care near you. But we also would encourage you to, once you have talked to a doctor or once you have made some decisions, go talk to Ryan and go talk to Mariya, and if you feel drawn to learn more and see if it is a good fit for you, and make a personal decision if you want to explore the different modalities and way they are operating in their professions based on their expertise. So, based on how heavy all of this has been, I just want to give a double disclaimer. You got that? Everybody heard that, right? Okay, just checking.
I want to add too that you don't have to use brain spotting just for trauma. It's being used in a lot of different formats. It's used for performance. So there's a lot of athletes that are using it, creative people who are in the arts or musicians, actors, and also for expansion. So just the same way we found, a spot that was activating in a negative way, you could think of this, you want to have a 7-figure business, right? And you want to imagine yourself living into that. You can elicit the somatic essence of that, desire or dream, and then find the brain spot that accesses that and process on it. And these spots you can take with you because they're access points inside of and into your brain and your nervous system.
Well, I'm on the show, so I'm going to take a leap of faith here. I'm on the show with two people who wouldn't look at me like, she's a little bit crazy. I'm used to that because, I'm a little bit crazy. But a couple of months ago, I'm a very deep dreamer. I dream in live, in color. I taste. I smell things. I feel things. I am a very intense dreamer. I mean, in all the ways you could imagine it, I intensely dream. Okay. And it's very, very real, to the point where there's been a couple of times that it's, and I feel it right. I was just paid attention to, where do I feel it? I feel it right in the center of my chest, which I know that's not where your heart lives, but it feels like it's directly in the center of my heart. And where I dreamed something like there was pounding at the door or knocking, or a child called out for me. And I was sure I heard it. Like that had to be the real world, not the dream world. And it wasn't. So it was my poor husband, his crazy wife dreamed. No, someone's at the door. Get the door.
Right.
But anyway, a couple of months ago, I dreamt as if in a movie, and I was experiencing it and seeing it. I need to preface this with, other than some children books and some songs I'm writing and developing on the side, business wise, I believed I'd write maybe a sales book in the future, because sales is my expertise and something like that. But zero, like as big of a zero as you could find, desire to write like a fiction novel series for adults. Okay. None, no desire, no thoughts, no plan. Had a dream a few months ago of an entire series of books that I'll be writing, and saw them played out in a movie scene. And then like someone switched the channel a second movie series, a series of another line totally about something else in the same dream. I already know I'm not meant to write that one right away, the second one, but the first one I'm supposed to be writing yesterday. And um I need to, I feel like I need to work with Mariya on how is that work in your brain spotting therapy kind of concept, when you have something creative like that
Yeah.
suddenly appears, and I know what I'm supposed to research, I know what state it's supposed to be in, I know the storyline, I know how they're all supposed to tie together, I know what the over encompassing meaning is supposed to be. Like, I know so many things about my novel series already, and I've just begun writing it, and I'm starting to do the research in collaboration with the local library. The librarians there are pulling things for me and helping me, and it's very exciting. Can you tell? I didn't mean to monopolize your interview. Sorry,
That's
guys.
That's all good.
So, from the hypnotherapist standpoint, what do you think
Mhm.
of the dream stuff, Ryan, that I just shared?
So, yeah. So for me, and a lot of people are going to tell you the same thing, that dreams are kind of like they do two things. Number one, it's the way that your unconscious mind kind of processes and stores the day. So it's kind of like figuring out the meaning, pulling the meaning from stuff, and kind of like what it needs to incorporate into the broader perspective it already has, right? And for a lot of those dreams, those are just stuff that you experience at night and you just kind of forget it in the morning. It's no big deal. The stuff that is more impactful, the stuff that you do retain, things like the dreams you're talking about now about these books, are very much your unconscious mind communicating to you from a deeper perspective. This is important. Pay attention to this. Explore this, right? And so anytime you've got one of these dreams that are really powerful and very impactful and that you remember after you wake up and you're thinking about, it's very much a clue of like, start going down this rabbit hole, right? And it may not necessarily be about the thing you dream about. It might not be specific about that. Your mind works, especially your unconscious mind really works in symbols and metaphors and story. So it may not be like the direct thing that you're dreaming about, but start going down that rabbit hole. Start exploring those themes. Start watching some YouTube videos or whatever it happens to be about that general thing. Something is going to catch your attention. Something's going to draw your curiosity, and that's the thing that's important. That's the thing your mind has been trying to point you to.
Yeah, it's already morphed a little bit over the process of digging deeper into it. That's fascinating. What are your thoughts on it, Mariya? I figure I'm going to take advantage. I'm fully
Might as well.
that they're here. They're at my mercy. We're live on my show. I'm going to get some free help.
Yeah, absolutely. I would help you figure out what blocks are you experiencing to this goal that you have, and like what energizes you about it. And so there's many roads that lead to Rome, and there's a lot of different ways that we can access the system. We could brain spot the dream itself. So wherever you feel the most connected to the dream or a sensation or the image of the dream, we would look at your visual field and have you find that brain spot that accesses it, and hold there and see what else emerges. But we could also look at what's holding you back, what's frightening you about it or making you feel anxious about it, process those emotions and experiences, or just have you go full bore on the expansion. That's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to live it and embody it every single day. And I find that expansion work is really beautiful because it helps us live in the state that we're wanting to arrive to or be in. And it helps us get into it now. So it's like you're putting on the jumpsuit, right now, and you're gonna start thinking, feeling, acting, behaving in the state of being that you're gonna need to be in order to write these books.
Yeah, I think expansion's where I am, because when I was asking myself when you were listing those things, fear, I don't have, I really have I have wonder, I have excitement, I have what's going to happen next with this because I know it's going to happen. Like, I don't have worry or fear or any of this. I just, I'm just full. I don't know if if you're getting that, but I am just
I'm getting it.
excited about this, and so that it's going to be a part of my story and my legacy, and just wow, I feel like I light up like a Christmas tree when I even just think about it. So
One
yeah.
idea I have is, as you light up like a Christmas tree, notice where your eyes go. because
Okay.
that's the spot. That's a gaze spot. We're all gaze
Uh,
spotting all the time when we're thinking of
uh,
things, we're drawing, conclusions in our mind. When if you're ever daydreaming, where you were
Mhm.
looking was where that information is held inside your brain, so you can strengthen neural networks when you continue to look at a spot and focus mindfully within your body. So find your supercharger spot. And
ah.
I have one, it's straight up. You've probably seen me look at it a few times, and that's the spot where I feel really
I
connected
do
to my
that. I
yeah,
watch
that's
myself
my
on my
higher self.
podcasts as
Mhm.
I do that. I do look up to see what's next. All right. Enough about me, but that was a little fun. Ryan, give us a
Yes.
tip. Something that people, well, you know what? I'd like you to do two things,
Okay.
especially because of your profession. And
Hmm.
Maria was just watching my eyes again do funny things because I was
I'm
thinking, and
always watching people's eyes.
she's catching that. And I'm paying more attention. Oh, there it is. Okay. Um, give us a little bit of the myth buster comfort zone of, you're not going to pull a watch out and wave it
Sure.
back and forth and make them flap like a chicken. Give us a little bit of that reassurance and information, and
Sure.
then give us a tip on really some of the best ways, especially working with
Mhm.
you, people can use even self hypnosis and places in their day
Sure.
already. They're already under hypnosis and don't realize it and all this. I'm
Right.
fascinated with the topic, so I've read a lot of these books and I know a few of
Mm.
the answers, but not nearly as well as our expert today, Ryan. So,
Thank you.
wanted to do us a little of that, and then Maria, be preparing in your mind's eye, which now is more connected of a sentence than I ever thought of in your mind's eye. Your tip as we listen to Ryan, because we'll be at you next with this request. All right, Ryan, take it away.
Sure. So a lot of people think of hypnosis as a control mechanism, like I'm going to take over your mind and I'm going to be in the driver's seat and I'm going to make you do what I want to, and so forth and so on. It really doesn't work that way. Hypnosis it's a voluntary process. It's kind of like a dance. Hypnosis itself is just a set of tools that give us more access to your unconscious mind. It's kind of like almost going through a guided meditation, right? I'm leading you down a path. I'm leading you through a series of exercises. I'm leading you through a series of steps. Okay. And it's up to you to decide to follow along. I
Mhm.
cannot force you to take that step. You have to take that step on your own. Okay.
Mhm.
Which means it's 100% a voluntary process. Okay.
Mhm.
If you don't want to take the step, I can't get you there. If you don't want me to hypnotize you, I can't hypnotize you. If you're in hypnosis and something is going wrong or something's bothering you, you can bring yourself out of it at any time and I can't stop you. Right.
Mhm.
Fundamentally, at every step of the process, you're in control.
Mm.
You're always in control. Okay. The other thing I'll say is some people are worried that I'm going to make you do something that you don't want to do. Right. But our moral compass really resides in the unconscious mind. And in hypnosis, we're taking the unconscious mind and putting it in the driver's seat. We're giving it more control.
Mhm.
Right. So the idea that I can make you do something that's in a violation of your moral code or your moral compass, like I can't. We're making that a stronger part of you in that moment. Um, as far as tips go, the biggest tip I would say is when you're running up against something in your life that's not working, the only thing you have to do is be curious. That's all you got to do. Just be curious. But you have to be willing to question anything and everything, right? You know, you have a problem. You're not sure what it is. So it could be anything. So you have to be willing to question everything. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm.
And one of the biggest things is trying to figure out where the problem actually lies. All right. Problems are easy to solve once you figure out what the problem is,
Mhm.
right? Figuring out what the problem is the hardest step of the process. Once you know that, fixing it is easy. Okay. So start thinking, is this something that's a conscious process, right? Do I just not have the right tools? Do I not have the right framework? If I'm procrastinating, do I need to get an egg timer? Do the Pomodoro technique, right?
Mhm.
But if it's not something obvious like that, it's probably something deeper, right? It's an unconscious issue. It's a trauma issue. It's a psychological issue. There's an understanding about yourself that's wrong in some way, shape, or form. There's a belief you have about yourself or about how the world works that is inhibiting you and blocking you from making the moves you need to do. So get curious. Start asking yourself, okay, what is it that I believe that's in the way? Right? Where does that come from? what do I need to do to shift that? Right. Some stuff you can shift on your own just by being aware. Sometimes you need some help.
I often ask myself, what question should I be asking? What's the question I need to be asking in this situation? Because if I can identify the question, then I can often then determine, now how do I begin, and who, not just how, but who do I need to reach out to in order to answer this question? You know, the who and the how do I solve this puzzle? You know, but clarifying what question I should really be asking is one of the tools I use in order to achieve that. I am gonna take a second and tell a short story that I think you'll appreciate, Ryan. And I'll again tell you, I'm not giving anyone medical advice. I am sharing a personal story of what happened to me and what I personally believe. You get to choose what you believe. This is what I believe. So as long as the audience out there understands that, and everyone watching, I do believe we're all connected and that we're all energy. Not everyone believes that. I believe that. I also believe that's why the power of prayer, when people pray for you, for healing or for, you know, whatever, it just have you in mind that helps in some way that can't explain, but I believe that it does. And so we have 7 children, I mentioned. To have our 7th child, when we decided to, I know we're nuts. We were just about done. We saw the finish line. It was go buy an island or have another child. You know, these were kind of our decisions. And we decided that we were going to have a child. And then we did our due diligence, and I went to the doctors to see if my body was ready. I hadn't been a very long time so we have a 13-year-old, and then the next youngest is 26. So it had been a very long time since I had been in that situation. Wanted to make sure I was healthy enough and able to go through this process. And after 2 years of soul searching, praying about it, discussing it on long walks and talking about it, we both came to the same place. We went and did this doctor appointment, and then we're told, and then we felt really great peace with our decision too. So we're like, this is the right one. And then we were told by the doctors that it wasn't possible, that my fallopian tubes, and you guys don't want to hear all this stuff out there on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you're watching this from, but we're not functioning, weren't allowing things to work, and that insemination was the only way. And so I told my prayer warriors and sent them out to pray, and cried a lot and said, why do we do 2 years of agony if that's not going to be? And was trying to find peace with it. And we started saving money to go meet a specialist near us to discuss the possibilities of that. But then I also went to see a hypnotist. And one of the things we did was go through the journey of allowing my body to be open and healed and well and strong to receive what's needed to be received, to make all the things work together that you know, make a lovely, beautiful, amazing human. And a few months later, 1 month prior to our appointment that was scheduled with the specialist, I got pregnant with our 13-year-old daughter. And every time we went to that doctor appointment, that doctor would talk into my belly with as if the end of the stethoscope he listens to your heart with was a microphone into my belly. And every time this goofy doctor that I had would say, I don't know how you got in there, but you're in there. Come out. I want to know how you got in there. He said and they ended up having to do a C-section after 20 hours of labor trying to have her naturally. And he said, there is no medical reason that baby should, based on physically seeing the condition and all the tests they did before that verified that I should have been able to do that without the, you know, my uterus was okay, but the ways to get all the things moving. The traffic highways were blocked. Anyway, but I believe for me, and I know, you know, I respect everyone's ability to believe, and I love my autofocus. See if you can get it to work right. That the combination of, sometimes if I back up, it'll fix itself. The combination of the hypnosis session and the prayer energy allowed us to have this beautiful 13-year-old in the manner that we did. So that's all I'm going to say. And I thought you would appreciate that
awesome.
story.
Yeah.
It works. It works.
That's great.
That works.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, Mariya, let's have a tip from you also. And let's hope it doesn't make me talk so much.
I think tips wise, I have some words of wisdom. One is, if you've been going to therapy or trying a lot of things to help yourself feel better and it's not been working, it isn't you. So it isn't you. It's not your fault. I know that talk therapy can be helpful for some people, but I think in general it's really only accessing the conscious mind, and it's not going into the deeper layers of our system. So it's more that the type of therapy that you're doing might not be helping you. Um, Getting access to the nervous system in the body is really crucial to make change. Like, it's very similar to what Ryan is doing to get to those deep belief networks, right? We have to bypass the thinking brain, and all of the defense mechanisms that come with it. And thankfully so, it helps us function and do our day to day. But if you're if you're not making progress, I just really, really want to liberate people from feeling like it's their fault, because it's not. It's the modality isn't getting into the right place inside of your brain or your body to make that change. The other thing, in the way that, we teach brain spotting, we really do it from at least I teach it from a really decolonized perspective, and looking at, what we call mental health disorders. I don't consider them disorders. We talk about them as being adaptations to stress, because that's what they are. So, although naming a condition can be helpful, and the word disorders or the DSM-5 is there as like a shorthand, for clinicians and people to be able to communicate about the same types of patterns. You're not a chapter in a book. Like, you're not a set of symptoms. You're a human being, and you need to hopefully find folks that, well, I hope that you'll find clinicians and healers out there that see you as such, and receive you with the fullness of who you are. And I think brain spotting does an amazing job of receiving people with the frames that we all show up with. And its main principle is attunement, both on a relational level, like connecting, emotionally, but also on a really deeply neurobiological level. So what we're doing in this process is supporting people's neurobiology to experience secure attachment, secure connection, to feel held, feel loved, feel cared for. So my tip is, if it's something that you're trying out hasn't been working for you, it's not your fault. Look for other modalities that get access to the body, get access to the deep brain, where you can start to actually biohack some of this stuff that's in the nervous system. And always know that the parts of us that, protected us during those times of pain or trauma, um, they have a purpose too, and they kept us alive for a period of time, when we needed it. But eventually, those things keep us from living, right? The things that kept us alive keep us from living. And your body knows how to heal. It absolutely knows how. It's an amazing, amazing creature. You get a cut on your leg and it somehow magically scabs over, right? There's so much that our bodies are capable of that we don't give them credit for. So.
Yeah.
I believe that. I have a 13-year-old walking around that proves it to me, but that makes me believe. But what I'd say is, I agree with you that not I called it talk therapy, but working with a counselor or a therapist, works for a lot of people. And sometimes it works for a lot of people for a long time, and then it stops working. And it's sort of like, I would imagine it's sort of like going to the gym, where if you're using a 3-pound weight for a while, it's working because that 3-pound weight was really heavy when you first started out, and then suddenly you find you need to use other equipment, take a class, do swim, bike, do something else that helps you achieve that goal, that next goal marker that you need to. And the same goes for maybe you tried other modalities and then you found that your 20-pound weight or your swimming or your next goal marker was reached through traditional counseling. Like that could be used. So it all has to be whatever it is. But I do believe if something isn't working, stop banging your head against the wall and expecting different results. Try something else, because we are all unique and individual. I mean, in my journey to be the best version of me as the hot curvy Italian that I am, I'd like to re-navigate some of the curves and be really healthy version of me. And I've had to try lots of different things, and I've had things work for a while and then stop working and then have,
Yeah.
so I think your mental health is much like that as well. Again, seek professional care. We're not telling you what to do with your situation, but these are definitely things to think about and have conversations with whoever you are working with and monitoring you. And if you don't have someone, find someone, and like I said, Ryan and Mariya might be great people for you to reach out and have conversations. We have to make the best decisions for ourselves when seeking out professional support. Here is one of my favorite parts of the show, sharing a nonprofit close to your heart. I really feel like we're taking a moment beyond all of us here on the show today and beyond all of you in the community. I want you watching out there to put in the comments. You've heard me say this before. You've been following us for a long time. Put your favorite cause in and hit that share button, because what that does is it gives us an opportunity for us to inspire someone to give time, treasure, or talent out to someone, to a cause that you shared, or to one that the guests share, and make them remember, oh yeah, I have a cause I love. I haven't done anything. Let me go reach out and see when their next fundraising event is, or what is it that they need right now, and how can I support them. So really, we're all just heroes if we can just inspire someone to go do something good or kind today, because they heard us talk about this segment of the show. So Ryan, share with us a cause that you care about.
Sure. So the cause I'd like to highlight is called Pass It On Outdoor Mentors. It's all about getting underprivileged kids out into nature, hunting and fishing. It's also about getting adult mentors for those children. One of the biggest struggles with groups like Big Brothers Big Sisters is trying to find enough adult mentors who are willing to help these kids out. And one of the big things about hunting and fishing is that people who are into that have a very powerful desire to share that with people around them. So it gets these kids an opportunity to experience nature in a way that they can't otherwise experience it. I grew up in Kansas, and there were a number of kids that we had out in those programs who had never seen a cow, which you would expect in Kansas would be something you'd be able to see, right? They also do a lot of work with wounded veterans through the Wounded Warrior Program, veterans with PTSD, getting them out hunting and fishing and kind of making those connections again.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you for sharing us. I've never heard that one before. And I always love it when we have a new cause pop up on the show. Spreading awareness is one really great way we can support that cause, for people to know that it's out there. So Mariya, how about you? How about a cause that you care about?
Yeah, I wanted to share about brainspottinghelp.com. So Brainspotting Help is a organization. Two of the brainspotting trainers out in Europe started it to support people who are experiencing war or either nature or man-made disasters. So they train and then deploy brain spotting clinicians to go and support survivors or victims of places right now, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, and offering free PTSD treatment to those folks using brain spotting. And if you donate, the money goes to paying for interpreters. So it's a really, really important cause, especially with all the stuff that's going on right now.
That's wonderful. And that's, again, the one I've never heard of. So thank you for sharing that. Well, I am absolutely bananas about books. And as you can see, this is just the very, very beginning of my library. There is so many more books in my house. Um, and my husband always says that we don't need walls. We could just use books. So we could build a house of books. Um, our own little library and the house would still stand. So, I always like to ask guests a book that inspired their personal life or helped them grow their business. What do you have for us, Ryan?
So the book I'd like to highlight is called How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big by Scott Adams. This one was a big thing for me because, so many times in life, our lives are random. We go through so many things, and this doesn't work, and that doesn't work, and the other thing doesn't work, and that didn't work. I just got diagnosed last year with Asperger's syndrome, autism. And so my life has been one big thing of trying to figure out how to make it a world that's not built for me. And so reading his book on how he had failed at so many things and how that created for him a talent stack was really interesting. And the idea is that all these different experiences, all these different moments basically teach you things and create talents for you. And the combination of all those is a very unique thing for you. That unique talent stack is what enables you to pursue your greatness. That's the thing that creates your magic. And I found that to be very true in my life. A lot of people that I've talked to find that to be true in their life as well.
That's lovely. And you have a friend. You have a friend.
I do. And if I don't push him away, he's going to sit there and purr into the microphone. So he has to wait for me.
I'm good with that.
I think that's awesome. And hey, look, my camera decided to autofocus. Yay. And this is the world we live in. All right. The show's not about me anyway. So if I'm a little fuzzy, that's all right. I'm a little fuzzy. It's a true story. Mariya, share with us a book that inspired your personal life or helps you grow your business.
Yeah, I have a lot. I love reading. So I always have like 8 books going at once, but I'll share one that I read recently, earlier this year in March, and I couldn't put it down. It was called They Called Us Exceptional, and it's by Prachi Gupta. And it's a memoir. It's actually a letter to her mother, and she shared the story of being an immigrant, an Indian immigrant child growing up here in the United States, and all of the challenges, the beauty of the culture, and what it means to leave your home and integrate into a different country. Spoke so much to my own story. It highlighted things that I had never had named before, that I'd always felt, and it put a lot of things in perspective for me and helped me not just in my personal life but in my business life too, to see how far people can come. It was an inspirational story, so highly recommend it.
I love that. I love that. You said something earlier in the show, and I forgot to make a comment and I'm going to share, and I've never shared this on the show before. It's a little bit personal, but I was in Germany. I lived in Germany for a long time, and I was married for 7 years, and it was a very traumatic experience. And you mentioned you were talking about the parts of the brain of fight, flight, and you said the word collapse. And instantly I was brought back to a moment where I was outside. I was actually working in a building, one of the German buildings that actually had a gas chamber in the basement, but the upper part was being used for offices. The gas chambers were being used for storage, for tricycles and balls, because there was a daycare center also in the top of this building now that I was working in. But anyway, I was outside of the building and had a long day of work, and I was in this really challenging, traumatic relationship. And he drove up, and before he drove up, I remember having a moment where I hadn't eaten all day. I was very upset, very stressed, and I passed out. But before I passed out and collapsed, it was almost like my body asked me if it was okay. Was it that because I was actually unconscious? I mean, they took me to the hospital. I don't have any memory of the ambulance ride. Like, I was unconscious, but it was almost like my brain was asking me permission prior to collapsing, because I was collapsing not due, I don't believe, to the lack of food or water that day, or I think it was from the stress and from the trauma and the experience I was having. And I saw him in the distance driving up, and it was a way my body was saving me somehow. I don't know how else to explain that, but I haven't thought of that
Makes
moment.
perfect sense.
I haven't thought of that moment in forever. But when you were describing, suddenly you said the word collapse, and I saw me standing there, and again, like it was yesterday. It was very bizarre. So this has been a fascinating experience and interview process for me. I've enjoyed it very much. I hope you guys are having fun.
That's because both Ryan and I are subcortical and really in the subconscious. We're bringing out all these things inside of you.
Yeah, man, I'm getting a double whammy dose here. But at least I'm open to share what's happening, right? Like you can get a picture of what you're doing. Ryan, don't worry about the cat at all, seriously, because I was fuzzy for a quarter of the show. So
I know. He's just got this thing where he completely ignores me right up until I'm in the middle of an interview or something like that.
Yeah, like children. It's like children. He's doing his own show in the background. It's all good.
Yep.
And all of our cat lovers are gonna make a million comments and tell you all their funny cat stories. Yeah, so you'll just have to live with that. Right. So now we talked about me and my author journey, and I've done other things, and I'm doing lots more other things, but it's not about me. We're going to talk about Ryan now. Ryan, you're an author of a book or books. Tell us about your author story.
Yeah. So my first book is actually due to be published on the 10th of October. It's called Winter Peace. Yeah, it's coming up real soon.
Say the name again.
It's called Winter Peace: How to End Inner Conflict and Make Success Inevitable. So my entire belief system is around, the entire belief systems we have, those are really what hold us back. They're the things in the way. So the book is all about exploring the major beliefs of, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough, and I don't deserve, because that's one of the biggest belief sets that holds everyone back. It talks about how the unconscious mind works, how your unconscious mind processes the world, how these different beliefs drive your emotional responses, your physical responses, your thoughts. It also talks a lot about how to shift those beliefs, how to get yourself some really, really solid self-esteem that doesn't require you to prove things to yourself, that doesn't require things from the outside world to validate that belief, and how that all comes together to make it so that your success is basically inevitable, to where you can overcome pretty much any challenge. And one of the most interesting things about the book is it teaches you to view emotions and process them in a very different way, to see emotions, even negative ones, rather than as problems to be solved or things to avoid, but as signals from your mind asking you for help to solve a problem. And since solving problems is easy, once you know the problem to solve, you can actually use those emotions to guide you through life much better. So even experiencing negative emotion like grief or fear or that collapse experience that you had becomes a way to help navigate the world in a better way. If you go to my website, www.ryanthehypnotist.com/book, you can go ahead and sign up for my email list. I'll go ahead and alert people whenever it's ready for pre-order. I'll also send you the first 2 chapters for free.
I'm signing up. I am anxious to read your book, and I have to tell you, I can't. The book is not in my mind at the moment, but and you guys watching, just bug me later. The team will tell you the name of the book, or we'll put it in the description. But I will share with you offline. I know how to find it. There's a book that will totally validate everything. I mean, I just recently listened to this audiobook, and it was profound, and it took in all experiences as positive experiences, and how really, really deep, good stuff. So I'm excited to read your book as it's released and support you. And I know our community will follow suit and be curious to check those things out. Any other books on the horizon, especially with your recent diagnosis? I wonder if you wouldn't can think about outlining a book that supported people as they have the experience you're on the journey with.
Honestly, I don't have anything on the horizon right now. One of the biggest things for me was just kind of getting to a place of peace where I wasn't having to suffer anymore. And since I've kind of figured out how to do that for myself and my clients, I wanted to get that out to the world as broadly and as quickly as possible. So that's really what I'm focused on right now.
I loved listening to some of your description because, again, double whammy of this energy on this show today for me. I remember a time when I felt like there was something wrong with me because
Yeah.
some things kept happening to me in repetition, and I seemed to be the only common denominator. But that wasn't the true story, and I've been able to release that. And
Mhm.
you know, I. I do remember a feeling intensely of not feeling good enough or like I didn't do
Mhm.
something. And then you mentioned a time getting to a space where you feel like nobody else's validation matters, right?
Yeah.
And the one place I do feel I love myself very much, but I always
Mhm.
feel like there's places just like if we're exercise, I'm going to go back to exercise and working on our
Yeah.
muscles. We have to remind ourselves that we love ourselves. We have to remind ourselves
Mhm.
sometimes that we have value and that we are worthy and that we are enough. And that's one of those things,
Mhm.
kind of brushing your teeth. You have to. I think that it's easy to.
I would challenge that a little
Okay,
bit.
good. Challenge
This is something that I've recognized is that you don't have to tell yourself that if you actually believe it. If you have to repeat yourself, I love myself, this I'm deserving, and so forth and so on, it's not something you actually believe because you never have to prove things that you already believe. You don't stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm a mother. You don't
it.
stand in front of the mirror and say, I'm a podcaster, I own a business, or I'm an entrepreneur,
Yes,
right?
but when you start putting adjectives in front of it, it changes the
Mhm.
scenario.
Yeah, it
Am
does.
I a good mother? Was I a good mother? Am I a good mother?
Exactly.
Am I,
Exactly.
am I a successful business person? Am
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
what's the definition of success? But when you were talking about this, fascinating enough, I felt 100% justified with no fear whatsoever of
Mhm.
worthiness when I thought about writing my novels again. When I thought
Right.
about putting that out into the world and doing it,
Mhm.
I feel uh, completely whole
Yeah.
in a way that I, maybe don't always feel in all aspects of my life. So
Yeah.
that's it.
And that's the big thing for me is it should be a general thing. It
Mhm.
shouldn't be siloed. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm a very good mother, but I'm not a great businessman, or I'm a successful business person, but maybe I'm not the best person, right? You
Mhm.
should have this base sense of like, I am good enough, period, across all these
Mhm.
domains. You should be in a space where you can be yourself fully in all these domains. And that's really
Mhm.
where I'm trying to help people get to.
I think that's very beautiful. And what you're doing is wonderful work, Ryan. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, Mariya. Now, I know you haven't written a book yourself, but you do have some talks and you do some speaking. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what kinds of places have you spoken in the past? What kind of places are you open to speaking? And what kind of talks are you doing? Give us a little picture of your speaker career.
Sure. Yeah, I've been speaking about a variety of topics for the last few years, a lot of mental health conferences and other spaces, but focusing on somatic psychotherapy and really shifting the paradigm, shifting the needle out of just like trying to reach the thinking brain and connecting the mind, the body, the spirit together.
Mhm.
I also do a lot of work with ancestral trauma and ancestral
Mhm.
healing, and so um, connecting the uh, land as a body, right? And also
Mhm.
our origins and how we're really not separate. Our mind and our body's not separate, and our bodies, minds, spirits are not separate from the earth either. So I have a keynote coming up here in about 2 weeks that is going to talk about the land as a body and our bodies in connection to that, and how doing somatic healing work as a pathway to liberation, and helping us get to our sense of wholeness again. And book is on the horizon at some point. I know I've known since I was like 8 or 9 that I was going to write a book. I was an English major in college before I switched to social work, and have written a lot of poetry and a lot of creative nonfiction. I think I've heard people ask me to write my story, so maybe that's what's going to happen and give birth to that in a few years. So I might need to go to Ryan for a little while to break my blocks, because I'm not like you, Jessica. It creates a lot of anxiety for me to think about writing a book. Like, oh, who's going to read that? And then, all those
Well,
come up.
your story and poems are very vulnerable pieces to write.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very less vulnerable for me, in my opinion, to write a book on sales techniques and my sales stories and experiences versus my life story, right?
Mhm.
That's a different thing. Or my poetry, or even when we publish songs, it's much more of a bearing of your soul, and your heart is much more involved. And everything that you just talked about and all of your expertise, you and I are going to have to collaborate on the second book series that I'm procrastinating because it's trauma based, and we'll probably need Ryan's help in the process.
Happy to help.
I'll need it to get through. So, but we're going to have a one-on-one, because when you hear the story that I'm going to tell in that series, your mind's going to be blown, because it's about generational healing tied to a piece of land and water, because water has memory as well. Water holds memory. And this story is profound, about forgiveness and generational healing, and that connection to it's a particular piece of land that's passed through all these generations. And the series covers the different families and how they are affected and what their belief system is, and then how the water is a part of the process. So, you and I are going to have a very interesting chat when I share with you the dream that I had with more details of the book. So, I'm excited. I'm excited about that. Now I'm actually excited about it. See, before I wasn't sure I could face it. So I just said, later. I'm going to do this other one first because it's much more fun. And it's more about love and self-love and different kinds of love throughout families and relationships, and how they all tie together. And so it's going to be, for me, a lot more fun to write. The other one's going to be much more bearing, and tap into some of my own personal trauma. And I believe it'll be a big healing series for me as well. But I hope my goal is for it to be a legacy that provides healing for many people, in all different kinds of traumatic situations. So who knows? You both may end up being either co-authors or in the acknowledgments of the book itself. So there you have it. Well, this has been more fun than I can express. I hope you both feel the same. I hope I'm not the only one at this party who had a good time.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, everybody out there. I'm your host, Jessica Koch. This has been our show. And if you're thinking, wait, I should be on that panel, I should be one of those speakers, I should be a guest on Jessica's show. Well, I'm not going to disagree. Reach out to the team. We'll fit the bill, and we'll give you directions on how you can be featured as well on this what I believe is amazing show. But before we say goodbye, we're not going to let our guests loose without a final thought, a piece of information or inspiration to share with the world. So Ryan, before you give our final thought, if there's anything else about you or your business you felt like you wanted to get that out, and then leave us with something inspirational.
All right, cool. So my website is www.ryanthehypnotist.com. You can also find me on Instagram and YouTube at Ryan the Hypnotist. As far as my final thought, I think I would say this: you have time. A lot of people feel like they're stressed, like there's no time, like everything has to be done right now. It's not true. You got all the time in the world. Okay. So focus on fixing the problem you have to do right now. All right. There's no need to have to dig into the deepest, darkest parts of your life if that's not what you're ready for. Do what you can now, fix the problems in front of you. And when you're ready, you'll have the time, you'll have the space to explore the deeper work.
I love that message. So many people don't tell us we have time. Everyone's also telling we're running out of time. The time is of the essence, that you must just do it now. I'm guilty for having a quote similar to that. I always say now is later sooner, so do it now. That's a quote by Jessica Koch. So for once, someone is saying, hey, take a breath. It's cool. You got time. So says Ryan. I'm going to believe him. I don't know about you, but I'm going to buy it. I'll take it. Sold, Ryan. I have all the time in the world. I love that statement. Mariya, give us a piece of information or inspiration as we sign off of today's show.
Sure. If you want to learn more about the work that we do, you can go to awakenconsultingservices.com or also visit our new baby called awakened-roots.com. That's where we're doing more of the holistic healing work. And I wanted to share a quote by Ram Dass. We're all just walking each other home.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a great way to end the show. We're all just walking each other home. Wowzer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's been the show for today. Still your host, Jessica Koch, still Profound Professionals. And until our next one, be kind to yourself out there and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.